What's up, friends? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Sometimes FPV is about the most annoying thing in the world, and today's one of those days, so low expectations on your part for this stream. Although I have a feeling that once we get going, we'll be just fine. Let me pop out the chat real quick here. Man, I am just... You ever have one of those days? That's today. That's today. I shouldn't complain too loudly though. I haven't had a day like this in a while, so can't complain too loudly. And you know, I don't know. I guess you could say the worst day of FPV as a career is better than the best day of project manager in corporate world, but maybe not. I used to like my job. I had some good days as a PM, helping people, getting projects done, stuff like that. Schizophrenic FPV, Kleptox, Paul McDonald, RC Ritter, Dusty Joe, S. Grace, Chopper FPV, RC Ritter, Long Guyen, CH3 FPV, Mr. Huggy FPV Trucker, Ramdonko J Drones, Dusty Joe, Freelo Joe, Espander, RC Ritter, Ramdonko CH3. What's up, friends? If you want to talk directly to me, type CiottiFPV into the chat. It'll light up in orange for me. Keystrokes don't work here. FPV Trucker says, happy Friday. Dusty Joe says, package came in today. Pretty stoked. Thanks again, brother. You're welcome, Dusty. I got there pretty quick. Damn. Freelo just says, I'm driving home listening to one of your streams and a new one comes on. Nice. Espander says, hey, gang. CiottiFPV, how you doing today? I'm doing terrible today, Espander. Today's been just a super, super, super frustrating day. Just one thing after. It's just, you know, like, in life sometimes, right? Like, Photoshop won't work, and then Premiere won't work, and then there's a weird aberration in a video that is there for no reason. and then, you know, I start doing FPV things, and I'm trying to get this Ghost toothpick in the air, and I've never set Ghost up before. So, you know, of course, there's a learning curve there, and then... so I must have spent 45 minutes trying to figure out why Ghost wasn't working. And since I haven't worked with Ghost before, I kept blaming firmware, and I kept blaming everything other than having reversed the goddamn wires on the receiver. Because, you know, there was a while where, I swear to God, I was streaming during this period of time, all right? So you can look it up. There was a time period where I specifically would, every single time I wired up a receiver, I swear to God, every single time, there was like a 2-year period where I wouldn't even look. I would just put one on RX and the other one on TX, and then if the receiver didn't work, I would just reverse the wires, okay? Shouldn't be dropping frames. I have no drop frames on my side. And it was great because I would wire it up, do all the things, go into the receiver tab. If the bars didn't move, I would reverse the wires, and that would fix the problem almost all the time. Well, very recently, like within the last few months, I decided that's crazy. Because it's not difficult, right? The signal in on the receiver goes to the out on the flight controller, right? Like, it's not hard. Well, this is one of the first builds where I did that. I specifically took a second to think about it and to look at the signal on the receiver and the telemetry and wire them up to the right pads. And I did it wrong. So, I'm going back to my previous approach of whenever I wire up a receiver, I'm just going to put oh, that wire's shorter, that goes to the closer pad. Oh, that wire's longer, that goes to the longer pad. And then when things don't work, I'm going to reverse the wires, and I bet you it's going to fix. So I spent a lot of time today. I wasted a lot of time today because when I was trying to do all the Ghost things, and it just refused to work, I kept going back to, no, I know it's wired right this time, because I took a second to look at the pads and think for a second. Whereas, previously, with the random approach, the first time that the bars didn't move in Betaflight, I would have reversed the wires, and that would have fixed the problem. Maybe it wouldn't have fixed the problem, because if I had done it randomly, there's a 50% chance that I would have gotten it right. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was like 45 minutes that I wasted. I did learn some stuff about Ghost in the process of looking up stuff and Googling and changing protocols and so then since it was Ghost, well, no, I mean before all of that, so I updated. That's the other thing that was annoying today is I had to update the QX7 so that it would talk to Ghost, right? So I had to deal with OpenTX Companion, which no matter what, I don't care who you are, is a complete nightmare. Every time you have to go into OpenTX or OpenTX, I'm just going to say it. Every time any one of us ever goes into OpenTX, it makes us feel like an idiot, right? Does OpenTX not make you feel dumb? Is there, like, it's like, who? Like, how much time do you have to spend in OpenTX to actually have any level of understanding? You know what I mean? Like OpenTX is just, it's just so bad. It's just so bad. It's so bad. So yeah, but I eventually figured out how to update this and get this onto OpenTX 2.3. for the record, on my QX7S, on the new carbon fiber radio that I have, which is going to become my main radio, I am going to put Edge TX on that. Before it becomes my main radio, I'm going to put Edge TX on it. That's going to be the radio that I'm going to use on ELRS for a little bit here. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that radio is going to get Edge TX, and I'm going to fly Edge TX to make sure that it's like stable and whatnot. I'm going to fly it as much as I can. Yeah, new stuff. You know, with FPV as a hobby where it doesn't really matter all that much. That sounds harsh, but you know, hobbies are for fun, right? When it doesn't matter as much, messing around with brand new stuff is fine and great and fun. But if I show up at a gig that I'm getting paid to be at, and Edge TX has a weird bug that nobody's found yet, and I can't fly, that's a huge problem. So yeah, I'm not gonna just jump straight into it until it's been out a little bit longer. But I am gonna put it on that black radio, and I am gonna fly ELRS tiny whoops as much as I possibly can to try to find any issues with it. And then it will be going on everything, because I feel like I remember somebody saying that the Edge TX is like slimmed down a little bit and it's not as confusing. Maybe not. Cheers, friends. This will hopefully fix me. I'm getting behind on chat a little bit. Ram Dongo says, I get that drift. Is that all I wanted to say about that? Yeah, I don't know. And then I put Bluejay on this. I'm just going to start using escconfigurator.com from now on. It just works. It works great. Yeah, I put Bluejay on this. And I put Betaflight 4.3 release candidate 2 on this. But then what did I do here with these? I see what I did. But then the CPU load was at like 53%. So I start turning stuff off, and I get it down to 52%. And like, it just made no sense. So then I flashed it to 4.2, and it was at 6%. It's an F411. On 4.2, it was at 6%. So I was like, oh, great. And I went through. So this of course, on 4.3, I go through all the tabs, I do all my setup, and then I realize this, right? So I'm like, God, I just wasted all that time. So I flash it to 4.2.9, and I start going through and doing all the setup, and the CPU usage is fine. It's at 6% or whatever. And then I get to the receiver tab, and there's no ghost in the receiver tab. And yes, I could have gone to I11OP SXT or whatever, the weird Spectrum protocol, but no. So, and I've done all the setup again. So then I go back, and I stubbornly flash it back to 4.3. And the CPU load is fine now. It's like 20%, which is a little bit high, but 4.3 has a bunch of extra stuff. I didn't do anything different. Like I put the same version of 4.3. Like, why was the CPU load at 50-something%? I put and then oh yeah, right, and then I put one of these wacky diamond DVR VTX all-in-one things in here, and I can't figure out what VTX table that is. Is it Tramp protocol? Is it Smart Audio TBS protocol? The internet just says no. The internet says this. So then I get frustrated. I'm like, all right, forget it. I'll just plug the goggles in. I plug the goggles in, and there's no video. There's OSD, but there's no video. And I wanted to see if Smart Audio was working, but I do the stick command to open up the OSD, and the OSD starts drawing. I've never seen this before. Starts drawing on the screen one letter at a time. F E A So like I stubbornly wait through it, and then it gets to the bottom, like, okay, maybe it just had to do that one time, because I've never seen it do that before. It's because the CPU load was too high. And I'm like, okay, I'll just wait for it, and I wait for it, and I go to features to look at the VTX. I wanted to see if smart audio was working, and it does the same thing. It starts putting VTX. I'm like, no, turn that off. Then I'm like, all right, I'll just keep getting stuff done. So I go into the motors tab. And to make sure the motors are all spinning the right direction. And so on your keyboard, you're up, and if you highlight a motor, if you tell a motor to spin, so I leave the props on because I'm very disrespectful of lightweight stuff like this, because I've been playing with it for 5 years. I go to the motors tab, and if you highlight one of the motor bars or the master bar and you use the up and down arrows, you go up and down by 1 point. And that's why it's kind of safe, because you just do that and you just go up, and then you just go, 1%, 0.1% throttle, 0.2% throttle, 0.3, and then you can really slowly spin the motors with, and with a tiny little rig with props on, it's not super evil. So I do that, I'm like, okay, and then I'm playing around in there with them. The other thing that you can do is the page up and the page down keys on your keyboard, that goes up by 10%. So page up goes to 10% throttle, page up again goes to 23% throttle, so you gotta be careful with that. Well, the end key, end on your keyboard is right next to page up and page down. End, right? The word end, the meaning of the word end, stop, right? The end key has always been full stop on the motors. And I've got a 2S battery plugged in, and I'm holding it, like I always make sure that I hold it in a safe spot, and I hold it really firm, because God forbid, it goes full throttle. So I'm holding it, and I'm done with a little test. I ramped the motors up to like 20% for some reason, and I did it with the page up. And I hit the end to completely kill it instead of hitting page down twice, which I should have just hit page down twice, but I hit end because I've used this a million times, and it ends the spinning of the motors. I hit end, and it goes full throttle on that motor. I don't know if this is a weird release candidate thing or if they changed it, but this right here is a perfect example of A, why you always take your props off, for the record, but B, why you don't do stuff like dumps and diffs. Like, this is why when you go to like a new Betaflight, it's worth it to do everything tab by tab by tab. Like, this is like the old days, before my time actually, where you would be updating BL Heli and the rig would just go full beans and fly around the room if you had props on it, right? So yeah, this was, again, a perfect example. But yeah, why? Like, why all at once, right? Like, why do all of these... I can deal with, like I was telling Maggie before, I'm like, I can deal with when like 9 things go wrong, but like when that 10th thing goes wrong, where it's like there's no reason for this many things to explode in my face all at once in the same day, like... Matt Anderson says, I had days like that earlier this week. It was pretty dark for a while. I know how it goes. Matt Anderson says, speaking of, I read today that KISS expects you to wire serial TX to TX and RX to RX. Oh, good. Yeah, I actually remember that. I remember that from KISS. That was one of the things that made me just want to scream. I think I remember that from KISS. That's not a new thing, right? That like it's always been like that. It was either KISS... No, it was Flight 1. It was Flight 1. Flight 1 did that same thing. So in that little period where I was experimenting with Flight 1 and KISS, like the 2-month period, that was one of the things where I was like, what? Like, you guys know that the TX stands for something, right? Like, you guys as in, like, talking to either KISS or Flight 1, whoever did this. Like, you know the T stands for transmit, right? And the R stands for receive, right? Like, you guys are making boards and software and stuff. Like, you know that, right? So then, like, to not do it that way, it's like, wait, who, what, who, what? I'm one to talk. I fucked it up when I built that toothpick. I got it wrong. I don't know what happened in my brain. I looked right at so it's marked S and T on the Ghost receiver. And I looked right at that S. And I remember thinking, oh, they marked it S and T. S for signal, T for telemetry. I looked right at that S. I was like, okay, I'll put this over here on the T pad. Oh, no, I didn't. You know what? I put it on the S-bus pad. That's right. I put that on the S-bus pad, and then I must have looked at the telemetry pad on the receiver, marked T, and I hooked that up. Must have hooked that up to a T pad. Because one of the things I did today is I looked and I saw, oh, I put it on the S-bus pad. That must be inverted. And I went into the CLI and I tried to I inverted the telemetry and the serial. Yo, we are in the weeds already. This is my full-time job, CiottiFPV.com if you want to support me. Back into the weeds we go. I forgot my shield today. Yeah, so I moved it from the S-bus to the pad right next door, which was TX. Right. I don't know. You guys probably know what I'm saying. But yeah, and then it didn't work, and then I reversed both. So yeah, I actually put it's okay. So I put the signal pad onto the S-bus, which was possibly right. I don't know why I did that though. I don't know why I thought like, oh, it'll need to be inverted. Maybe I was thinking that because it's an F4. That's why I was thinking that. I was thinking, oh, it's an F4. Let me be safe and I'll put it on the S-bus pad. But that's only for RXSRs, I think, right? RXSRs were the receiver that we had all those issues with being inverted. Because Crossfire doesn't have that issue. You just hook it up to RX and TX and it does everything. I don't know. Mr. Huggy says we've all been there, pulling our hair out, effing with the bloody wires. Freelojo says I do remember that time. CH3 says, it's me then, no worries. Freelojo says, if you run Betaflight 4.3, Ghost is 3-wire and just TX. Is it really 3-wire? They do everything through the signal? That's pretty cool. Oh, that explains a lot. You know, I was wondering why in one of the wiring diagrams that I looked at, it was talking about how you can wire wire the Ghost telemetry to your Tramp Smart Audio. And I was looking at it thinking, well, then how the hell are you going to get telemetry into the flight controller? That's pretty stupid. And I literally sat here like, what is that? What is wrong with them? They must be stoned. So it makes sense. You can run it. It'll pull telemetry in 3-wire. Is that what you get from that's what you get from the Ghost protocol, isn't it? That makes sense. That's cool. So it's still not been test hovered. I ran out of time. The last thing I did right before the stream was flash it back to 4.3 and marvel at the CPU usage being back down in the 20s. So it should be fine. I should just need to do setup on it. And we'll see. We'll see how it is. Nope, that's not true. I have to tear it all the way apart because it has no video. Which really doesn't make any sense because the video is right there and then it just goes right down and it's right there. I guess maybe the camera's not getting voltage. I mean, how would I know? How would I know if the camera's getting voltage or not? Oh, I don't know. Maybe they could put an LED on the camera. Oh, wow. Can you guys imagine if one of these companies that makes these components did something that actually helped us out? If, like, you know, for example, maybe something went wrong ever? Oh. Yo, that has been bothering me for a long time. These cameras not having just any visual indication whatsoever has bugged me for like at least 3 years. At least 3 years ago, I had the thought like, why the hell wouldn't they put a little tiny light on it? Just everything else in the world has a little tiny light on it. What? It would really help with troubleshooting, for the record. It would really help. Just having a stupid, any visual representation on our cameras. Cameras break a lot when you start crashing really hard. So yeah, it would really be really nice. It would. Or, you know, your flight controller 5-volt back blows up, and you notice that the light on your camera is not on, the light on your VTX isn't on, the light on your receiver is not on. Must be that, right? Like it would really help with, in many ways, with troubleshooting. Ramdoggo says, the wires I find detached. I think I just plugged the wrong thing, equals auto detach. Who needs a smoke popper? I'm confused. Espander says Edge TX is everything OpenTX, but better. That's what I've heard. I'm excited, actually. What I'm really excited about is the less latency in the sim. That'll be cool. Mr. Huggy says the new Zorro radio looks nice, built-in ELRS, etc. I had not heard of that at all until I saw a thumbnail today. But I was just like super focused on trying to get this thing going and getting the bunch of other shit going on. So I was like, nope, save it, watch it later. Odd says, greetings from Europe. Finally, I catch you live. Best FPV channel ever. Thank you, dude. S. Grace says, I'm on team Joshua Bardwell on this one. Edge TX isn't any harder to learn than OpenTX. Really? Well, that's fine. Whatever. It's similar enough to OpenTX where I'm not like worried about that. But Butteritskin says they changed how they compute CPU load in 4.3. If I remember what Joshua said, that's interesting. That first installation of it, though, there was definitely something wrong. I mean, the OSD couldn't even draw. Like it was jacked. Schizophrenic says they changed the way display CPU percentage in 4.3 versus 4.2. Odd says a question I've never found in Antwerpen to how you decide which battery? Which battery? Odd? Which batter? Odd. Tag me again and did you mean which battery? And like give me a little bit more. Like how do I decide which battery on a rig that I'm building, like with a certain set of motors? Like, is that what you're getting at? Freeledger says CPU load is more accurate for reading. Redtail FPV says I'm trying to flash ESCs with Blue Jay, and one of the ESC versions is unknown, and that ESC refuses to flash. Do you know how to fix that? That sounds like that ESC has blown up. What happened? Like, why were you trying to flash the ESCs? Is that like a brand new ESC, or did you slam it into a tree and it started acting weird and you decided to reflash the ESCs? If you slammed it into a tree, there's a good chance that you blew up the ESC, right? If there's no chance that ESC blew up, that changes the troubleshoot quite a bit. So do me a favor, Redtail, copy and paste this message because I won't remember it by the time I get caught up on chat. I'm at 15 minutes behind on chat. Copy and paste this and then add the extra info to it, and we'll keep going. We'll keep going on the troubleshoot. Mr. Huggy says, did you take the lens cap off for the blank screen? No lens cap on it. Thank God. When I get cameras, I pull the lens caps off and I throw them away right away. Odd says, so question I've never found. Here we go. How do you decide which LiPo, 2S, 3S, 4S, based on KV and motor volume? Really good question, actually, Odd. Because it's a little deeper than that for me. That's what she said. Uh, that was a good one. Really think about that one. Um, the voltage. I'll put it this way. Here's how you should pick what voltage you run. Straight up. Like, here's how you should do it. Mainly, it's by all-up weight. For example, we'll go all the way up to 6S. 5-inch freestyle rigs, 600 plus grams. We want all the performance in the world. We want, 10-to-1 thrust to weight ratio, even though we've got all up weights of 600, 650, 700 grams, right? 6S. And this is all sort of been proven. This is not, this is just like, yeah, this is just the way it is. There's no real, let this come out of focus. This is the real deal. 6S has been proven to have the best mix of enough voltage that you don't get mega battery sag towards the end of the battery, basically. Okay, a 6S battery will give you consistent power through pretty much the entire 3, 4, 5 minutes. And so then you just scale down. You just start scaling that down. Like, that's what you want. You want your battery to be able to pass enough volts that the amps don't go so high that there's a whole bunch of heat that gets created that causes this battery sag to occur. So you just start scaling that down. So you scale down from 5-inch to 4 or 3-inch, and you go down to 5S. Screw 5S. There aren't really many good battery options. We drop down to 4S, right? So a 4-inch rig would kind of be best on 5S, to be really honest, but it totally works on 4S. 3S rig is perfect for 4S. Absolutely perfect. You don't get that battery sag as long as you run a battery that has enough MAH, and you're good to go. So then we just keep scaling down, right? Like, you get all the way down to tiny whoops. It makes sense with 1S, although the tiny whoop batteries are so small that they kind of sag all the time anyway. The other problem with tiny whoops is that when you go to 2S, the battery weight it just becomes too much battery weight. So there's also these, typically there'll be, sometimes there'll be like, you'll be kind of stuck in between, and you have to pick. A 1S tiny whoop battery can be as little as 7 grams for a 1S 300. There are no 2S batteries that are 7 grams, right? So you make that sacrifice because the less weight in the tiny whoop provides a better flight experience because of the fact that you're flying it inside, and the distances are all tiny and the gaps that you're trying to shoot are tiny. So weight becomes, but we'll leave that tangent there. You just kind of scale it down, right? So you get down to a toothpick, right? So again, it's based around all up weight and the weight of your payload. So yeah, as the all up weight comes down, 600, 400, 300, 200, 100, you get to a tiny whoop, which is roughly, so we talked about 3-inch is great for 4S. So then you go 3S for, like 2.5-inch, for example, maybe 2-inch. And then 2S for really lightweight. This is 3-inch, but this is bi-blade 3-inch, which is closer to like a 2.5-inch in a way, or even 2-inch, but it's also very, very lightweight. So because of how lightweight a toothpick is, 2S and 3S are the best choice. Yes, you can go even lighter weight to the baby tooths and get away with 1S. Again, that is based on all-up weight. If you bring the all-up weight down below 100 to the 70s and the 60s and the 80s, the way the baby tooth 1S toothpicks are, you can get away with 1S. But yeah, that's how that scale kind of slides around. And to be totally honest, you can pretty much just use all-up weight. All-up weight of like 600 to 800 grams, 6S. All-up weight of 200 to 400 grams, let's say 4S. 400 to 600, 5S. But screw that, just pick. Unless you can find a good 5S, but there are a couple of good. There's There's a 5S, a GNB 5S 550. That's a really good battery. It's just, for me, it gets very annoying because I have 2S batteries, 3S batteries, 4S batteries, 5S batteries, 6S batteries. And it's just annoying. For you guys that don't have 20 rigs, it's not going to be as annoying. Although, if you stay into FPV for more than a year or two, you're going to have like 10 rigs. Mark my words. Because it's just really fun to play around with, like, maybe 3S would be better on this. I better try. There's such a sickness to, like, trying new things. It's just as bad with cars, but it is so much more expensive. Oh, this other set of wheels will look cool. $1,000. No. And that's a cheap set of wheels. Those are replica wheels. God forbid you get into like legit JDM wheels like Volks. Oh my God, you'll spend like $3 or $4 grand for a set of wheels. Thank God I never fell that. I mean, I could never afford it. I could never afford to fall that deep down the rabbit hole. Great question, Odd. Great question. I hope that answer made sense. Metal Dixon says, I have that Diamond VTX on one of mine. I checked and it's smart audio, could send you the table if you need it. So, Metal Dirtskin, were you able to find the hex table for it? That's really what I wanted. I did find the CLI table and I dropped that in, but then it just says like smart audio unknown. I always like to figure out, is it on Tramp protocol? I don't know if I actually have to do this. I assume though that I have to do this because the smart audio I don't think was working because it wasn't on Race 8 and I told it to go to Race 8. I feel like you need the hex, you need the either TBS smart audio 1.0, 2.0, or 2.1, or the Tramp. I feel like you have to use the correct one of those hexes, and then sometimes you also have to do the CLI VTX blurb to get if nothing else, then to just get the labels correct for the right. The labels don't matter, but I don't know if you can just do one or the other. Does anybody happen to know? Grizz is in the house. Athix is here. Expander says, I don't think a toothpick is even capable of harming. Yeah, toothpick is... So for the record, the whole props on discussion, thanks for bringing it back up, because it is kind of important. I bet you a toothpick would cut you. If a toothpick went full throttle and you like eased your finger into it, I bet you it would cut you, but maybe not. It might not. I swear to you guys, I have scars on my right hand from 3-inch rigs. Anything bigger than a toothpick, don't mess with it. Because it will absolutely cut you deep. Like, I couldn't fly for weeks both times it happened. It was 4S 1304 powered and 1507 powered rigs. So I'm telling you, anything bigger than toothpick, don't play around with it. Tiny whoops, you're fine. You're fine with even a 2S tiny whoop. You're fine. But yeah, anything bigger than toothpick, don't play games with props on. It's just not worth it. You know, think of it this way, right? Like, because none of us, because we're men, I can get cut, I'm fine, I'm invincible, man, right? Like, so it's like, I don't care if I get cut from it, I'll bleed, it's fine, right? Think of it this way. What if it full blasts into your monitor and breaks your monitor? Okay, since it's a terrible realization that like I value my monitor more than like my hand getting cut, but I do. And most of you know exactly what I'm saying. And agree with me. Odd says, for instance, I have some 1404 4550 kV Axis flying motors for a light 3-inch FedTech Gravity 1 frame. Dry weight is 110 based on kV. I would have gone for 3S. Oh, Odd, thank you for adding this. So that's another situation where you might choose, especially if you're in between KVs. If you're in between voltage, right? If like a toothpick, Like, oh, do I want to make this toothpick 2S or 3S, right? So especially when you're in between like that, the kV of the motors is going to be what's going to decide. Or in some cases, so I put motors that were a little bit too low of a kV onto one of my Cinewhoops, and it didn't quite have enough power on 4S. But we talked about 3-inch rigs being perfect for 4S, right? But in this case, I can put a Band-Aid on, instead of buying a new set of motors that are a higher kV, I could put a Band-Aid on that situation and run a 5S battery on that Cinewhoop totally fine. I would be putting a little bit more stress on the electronics for no reason. So the right way to fix that problem is to buy a set of motors that are in the correct kV, but you can bump up in voltage as a Band-Aid in that scenario. So in your case, 1404 4550 kV motors, light 3-inch, dry weight is 110 grams. Let me see what the dry weight is on one of these Ripsqueak builds, because I forget. And I'm gonna give you a. No, this is the one with 1804s. That one is absurd. So the Ripsqueak builds are 140 dry. So 110 dry. That's going to be about 200 all up. 1404 4550. 3-inch. So here's the other thing. It's going to depend if you run it on a 3-inch biblade, a 3-inch tri-blade, an aggressive 3-inch tri-blade, or even a quad blade. Like when I say aggressive 3-inch tri-blade, I mean like a pitchy 3-inch tri-blade, like the 3052. Right? So this is one of the things that makes learning all of this such a pain in the ass, is there are just like, there's all these sliding scales, and like when you move the kV up, it changes all these other things, right? So they all kind of interrelate. With that okay, so as an example of that, with that Cinewhoop that I put motors on that were too low of a kV for 4S, one of the other things I tried to do is put propellers on that were even more pitchy and had more blades. So if you've got like a Cinewhoop that's running tri-blades, for example, and it's not making enough thrust, you can go up in kV on the motors, or you can go up in voltage on the battery, 4S to 5S, or you can put propellers on that are more pitchy, or have more blades, a 5-blade or an 8-blade. Although the GemFan 5-blade makes more thrust than the HQ 8-blade. Because they're bigger, more pitchy blades. The blade surface is literally bigger. The GemFan blades are like that, and then the HQ blades on their 8-blade prop are like thin like this, and then the GemFan blades on their 5-blade are big old paddles. So yeah, it's all interrelated. For your build, 1404 4550 kV, I would have that on 4S. It'll absolutely fly on 3S. And then here's the other thing. How good of a pilot are you, / how much thrust do you want? Some people want tons of thrust. Some people don't. I prefer lower amounts of thrust, because the less thrust that your rig has, the more throttle resolution that you have. So when you make a tiny little change in the throttle stick, the rig will make a subtle little change. Whereas if you have a ton of power, you make that same subtle little change and the rig will jump up in the air. And I don't like the way that looks. I don't like the way that it looks when your elevation is all bouncy and you can't like slam to the deck and fly dead smooth on the ground. You got to have good throttle resolution to slam to the deck and just fly perfectly smooth. So yeah, it's all related. But for your rig there, for that setup, I would put that on 4S. And then if that was too much throttle, or if that was too much power, you just go into the PID tab and you turn on the throttle scaling. By default, throttle scaling is at 100. It gives you full beans. You bring that down to 80, you go fly, you see what's up. Because of how well that throttle scaling works, it actually makes a lot of sense to build your rigs to have a little bit more power than they need. So then you can throttle scale it down. And then, so like these 3-inch rip squeaks, for example, right? I have them built so that I can throttle scale them down when they're on pitchy props, and then go up to 100% if I want to like put them on a 2.5-inch prop instead of a 3-inch prop, right? Because a 3-inch frame, you can put prop guards on and then run a 2.5-inch prop and have kind of a Cinewoop. But with that 2.5-inch prop, you gotta put more RPM into. Well, you used to have to put more RPM into it. Recently, they've come out with 2.5-inch and 2-inch, really pitchy 5 and 6 blade, 4 and 5 and 6 blade props. So at that point, we used to only have tri-blade props, so we would have to spin the hell out of that tri-blade prop in that prop guard. Whereas now, we don't actually have to do that because these new 2.5-inch and 2-inch propellers have a ton of blades and push a ton of air. And they're quieter in the process, which is the point because you're putting them into a duct and you're flying it as a Cinewoop in theory around people. So there you go, Odd. What a rant that was. Ramdonko says keyboard command CiottiFPV and different countries. I am not sure what that means. What were we talking about, Ram? Tag me again. Athix says, imagine having your servo backwards on a nitro motor. Oh, God. Ramdonko with the little emoji guy. Michael Blade says, getting ready for the huge blizzard. Yeah, supposedly it's going to get crazy cold tonight. I'm going to drink my worries away. I continue to drink my worries away with one whole beer. And then at the end of the stream, I'm hoping to just cuddle up on the couch with Maggie and or the kids and just relax and just let this day go away forever. And tomorrow will be great. And I'll get this thing working. Ooh, you know what I did see that upset me, that annoyed me? And I don't know if this is real or not, but when I updated this, you guys remember when I was trying to put Red Pine on the Tiny Whoop? And in the stream, we had this big conversation, and everybody was like, no, your QX7 can't do multi-protocol. It can't just magically do multi-protocol, is what a couple people said. And I was like, yeah, you guys are right. That makes sense. I don't know if this is true or not, but it was just annoying. I updated this today. And there's the option for multi-protocol, which is actually a good thing, because maybe that means I can try Red Pine, because this Tiny Whoop has a built-in SPI receiver. So in theory, I can put this on Red Pine. But, just one more little thing. I was like, multi, it's right here. It's a multi-pro, it's right here. Here it is. I hope it works. I hope it works. That'd be nice. Make me feel better. Big FPV says, Ghost Signal goes to a TX on Betaflight. It's backwards. Don't put it on our X-Pad. Wait a second. So did I wire it up right? Hold on. Big FPV says, Ghost Signal goes to a TX, a transmit on Betaflight. It's backwards. I did wire it. Well, I mean, I wired it up wrong, but okay, so my brain didn't betray me. What? Why would they do that? What? Why? Why would they? What? Signal on the receiver. You make a receiver which receives a signal. Then you put a pad on that receiver that says S on it. Signal. Oh, the receiver. Ooh, there was antennas. The signal came from a magical place. The signal came from this magical place. and it went through these magical things, and it went through the air like actual witchcraft. It went through the air, the waves went through the air, and then they got to your magical antenna here. And then this antenna read those waves, and it said, oh, I'll put them into the wire, and I'll put them into the receiver, and then the waves are in the receiver, and the receiver takes those waves, and it converts them into ones and zeros, and it puts those ones and zeros into a piece of metal that says S on it for signal. Hey, the signal is here. I'm now going to travel down the wire. I'm going to go down the wire, and then I'm going to get to the flight controller. And where should I be on that flight controller? Should I go to the RX pad for receive? Or should they go to the TX pad for transmit? Should go to the RX pad, right? That makes sense, right? And then the flight controller receives them. It receives that signal. Give me your signal, ghost. Give it to me. What? Why would it go to a... Is Big FPV right? Big FPV, if you're messing with me, it was worth it. It was worth it to get to... Is that fun for you guys, or are you guys just like, oh man, did have a bad day? Metal Dixon says, mail just dropped off your package and a few other cool things. Love it. Steady Eddie says, sounds similar to FR Sky F port to a TX pad and half duplex turned on. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe my brain is just so ingrained with the way that FR Sky worked. Is it me? Be honest. You can be honest. You guys can be honest. Is it me? It's me, isn't it? Every time. Freeloader says, disconnect the telemetry wire, see if it fixes the issue. It's fine now. Everything's fine now. I got Ghost all up and running. Redtail says, it's a brand new build. Trying to flash ESCs with Blue Jay. And one of the ESC versions is unknown, and that ESC refuses to flash. It's brand new build. How do I fix that? If it's a brand new build, I think the ESC is blown up. The quality control on FPV parts is really poor, mainly because we sort of demand that they be cheap. Which, I mean, makes sense because, you know, we smash them into stuff. So it's kind of insane for them to be expensive because we're just going to blow them up, right? Yeah. There's just, like, nothing that you can do. Like BL Heli only has, you know, like 3 options. So, yeah, if it's unknown, like, there's just... With ESCs, like, they either work or they don't. Like, you put them into BL Heli, and, like, if one of them just randomly says unknown and you flash all and it doesn't fix it, it's just kind of done. Although, do check your signal wires. You said it's a brand new build. I assume that, for some reason, I assume that it's a bind and fly. If you did the build, make sure that the signal wire, for whatever motor that is going from the receiver to the, the flight controller to the ESC, right? Make sure it's not just a wiring problem. Like, for example, if you made your own wiring harness, if you mixed up, you know what I'm saying? I would check that even if it's a bind and fly. Man, the chances are low that that's the issue if it's a bind and fly, but I would still check it. I would still check the wiring from the ESC to the flight controller. Or if it's a bind and fly and you just bought it, send an email to whoever you bought it from and say, hey, this doesn't work. Send me another one. It's up to you. But there's a couple things for you to check. Expander says Edge TX is OpenTX. There's nothing to relearn. It works and functions exactly the same for 99%. Damn. That's what I, like, initially, when I heard that it was a fork of OpenTX, I was like, oh, it's the same thing with a different logo. And then I swear I heard somebody saying that I might be making it up. But I swear I heard somebody say that it's different in some way. It was easy, not different in some way. A little bit easier, a little bit simpler. Expander said, no, we got that. Tesh says, JB said power video has to match actual in 4.3. Said power has to match actual. What's that mean? Power has to match actual. Video power has to match. I don't know what that means, Tesh. Something about liability, so you don't say 400 milliwatts and get 1200. I'm not sure. I apologize, Tesh. I'm not sure what that means. We talking about VTX tables? Did they do something different in the VTX tables? Is that what we're? Redtail says, I'm trying to flash ESCs with blue. Oh, no, we got that. Expander says, what do you think of 320 grams all-up weight 3-inch freestyle rig? That is a little too heavy. That's a little bit over the line. Over the line. That I would try to get 3.5-inch props onto that. For me, anything over like 280 grams, 270 grams all up for 3-inch is a little bit too heavy. And what starts to happen is when I do blind moves, when I do off-throttle blind moves, where I just rely on timing. So you throw it back like this for some reason, and you're blindly falling to the ground. At 320, for me, this is just me, for 320 grams all up weight on a 3-inch prop, the prop is the parachute in this case. When you come off the throttle, the props keep spinning at idle, and they're a parachute. So the bigger the prop, the bigger the parachute. The smaller the prop, the smaller the parachute. The heavier the rig, the quicker it's going to tumble to the ground with a smaller parachute, right? So what'll happen is I'll hit the ground when I don't want to. The timing will be off for me. But I primarily fly 5-inch, 610 gram freestyle rigs. If you fly 800 gram 5-inch freestyle rigs primarily, 320 grams all up weight on a 3-inch prop might be perfect. I don't know because I don't, you know what I mean? Like I can't just, it's not like a thing that you can't like turn a stopwatch on. You just have to like be used to one thing. You know what I mean? Like you would have to find a pilot who's used to that all up weight. So yeah, and that's, very recently I actually realized that it's more of a timing thing. I used to think it was, I didn't realize that it was timing based previously. I thought it was just like I'm used to or whatever. But yeah, it's a timing thing. There's your brain has like why is this? Your brain has like a built-in timing that you develop after a while. Whereas like, hey, I'm this high off the ground, and I didn't fling it. I just chopped the throttle. I have like 7.76 seconds before it smacks into the ground, and then you blip the throttle and you slam down on the deck nice and low. It's one of the reasons why flying low is really good practice, because it gives you a physical like notification when you get it wrong. If you always drop down to 5 feet and cruise around at 5 feet, if you get it wrong and you drop down to 1 foot, there's no penalty, right? There's no visible penalty. You just kind of bounce a little bit, which is hard to see in the FPV goggles. I only ever see that in the HD at home. Whereas if you get used to dropping down 6 inches off the deck, if you get it wrong, you smack the ground real quick and you, ooh, right? Okay. And that dials in your timing more and more and more. Getting close to stuff makes you a better pilot. Go figure. Although, no, not go figure. That is actually kind of a foreign concept. Because in most things, you can't push the limit like that. You can't put a race car over the limit on a corner exit where there's a concrete barrier instead of, nice grass and gravel runoff, right? Whereas with us, who cares? Smack it into the ground 1,000 times. Smack it into the telephone pole, like whatever, It's one of the It's one of my favorite things about FPV is that we can crash and it's like, no, usually it survives and you hit it 40 more times. Eventually it breaks, but yeah, you can bash the shit out of these things. It's great. It's amazing. It really is one of my favorite things about this hobby is that we can go, we can hit stop signs at 80 miles an hour with a 600-gram rig and get to experience the sound that makes. If you guys haven't hit a street sign with a full weight 5-inch rig yet, you need to do it at some point. It's a sound that you will never forget, and it's immediately, like, when it happens the first time, you're like, oh, like, you immediately know what it is. You've never heard it before, but you know exactly what it sounds like. The sign wobbles. So type in the chat, tag me in the chat if you've hit a street sign with a full weight 5-inch freestyle rig. Tell me it's not an experience that you will forget until the day you die. Maybe it's not that bad, but maybe it's just me. Athix says Bob did a sub 252 as 5-inch at one point. Yeah, I mean, you can go all over the board with cell voltage. It just sometimes people do it just for the sake of doing it. Try to avoid that because that's just silly. Freelogia says battery accumulation is confirmed. Yeah, right. Rodney says I fly. Let me try to get caught up on chat. Let me stop going on rants. I think this is what happens when I'm drunk a little bit on stream. Is that I rant because I like talking in detail about stuff. So when I'm even remotely like not super sharp, I'll fall into just like normal me, and normal me is like talk lots about stuff. Hey, we got to talk about these frames though. I'm gonna go full speed through chat. We'll get caught up. Talk about these 7 frames. I've got 7 3-inch frames, 3-inch freestyle frames on the floor. Rodney says I fly 75mm 3-inch DJI Naked Vista Whoop regularly. Doesn't really fly like a Whoop though. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting thought. Doesn't really fly like a Whoop. Yeah, because it's so heavy. Because it's got so much power. It's just like a freestyle rig caught in a Whoop's body. Andy Taylor says, "What's that?" Monkeys. I don't know. Slim says I've had 2.5-inch cut the hell out of my leg. Yeah, 2.5-inch will get you. Kind FPV with a $30 super chat. He says haircut fund. I already got it cut, dude. Are you paying for it post haircut? That's actually what my haircuts cost. Thanks, Kind. That's super cool of you. Hopefully you're not saying that I need a haircut. It's hard. There's this light source is really small, so my hair doesn't. There's like no direct reflection on it. But yeah, I just got my haircut like 4 days ago. No, I guess it was a week ago. Can't believe it's Friday already. Jesus. Freelojo says ghost signal goes to TX pad. Why? 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 Why would they do that? What? What? Why? Why? In what world? Immersion RC. Tony. Come on. I've met Tony and I've hung out with Tony a bunch of times. Tony Cake is the owner of Immersion RC. I love Tony. He's great. He's such a cool guy. Bro. What? What? Why? Why? "45 minutes of my life is gone. And I want to know why." Family Guyver says, "What's up, collective?" Grizz FPV says, amazing experience, LOL. Andy Taylor says, LOL. Tesh says, they aren't just labels now. Yes, VTX table. Yeah, you need to do, Tesh, you're saying that you need to do both, right? You need to do both. You need to do the hex and sometimes the CLI dump. Expander says, will 1606 4300 motor swing 3.4 or 4-inch prop? It will, but there are no 1606s that are smooth, Expander. So if you have any plans of running HD video, those motors are more than likely not going. The only 1606s that I know of are the Tokas, which are ultra notchy, I'm told, and the Emaxes, which are ultra notchy, I know for a fact. So yeah, but that being said, 1606 is the correct stator volume for 3.5-inch props or 4-inch props. Yes. Slim says, does it count if I hit a metal dumpster with a 2.5-inch? Instantly knew that what the sound was, even though I never heard it before. We'll never forget. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Slim. Yeah, there are certain things that we barrel into. Oh, I'm at the bottom of chat. Hold on. Yeah, there's certain things that when you hit it, it's like, yup, I know what that was. And I know that I'm not going to be flying that rig again today. All right, here we go. I'm so behind on chat. Oh my God. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I just lost my... I scrolled too far. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Ramdago says, ask Aircon about the Q. Juan Jose Gomez says, what's a good motor for 2.5-inch on 4S carrying a naked GoPro, maybe a full-size one? For the record, you'd be best off trying to get the 3-inch for that heavy of a payload, especially a full-size one. Even a 3-inch will struggle to carry a full-size one. You would want to go 3.5-inch or even 4-inch to carry a full-size GoPro. Like I said, 2.5-inch is going to struggle with a naked. It's not going to struggle with a naked GoPro, but it's going to be maxed the fuck out with a naked GoPro. The motor that you would want, the only motor that would have a chance at doing both of those tasks, you'd go onto MyRCMart, MyRCMART, and you would get the RCX 1306, 1306, 6,000 kV, and then you'd run that on 4S. That's the only motor that would have a chance at carrying a full-size GoPro. It would probably overheat. It might melt. It's a bad idea. But if you want to do it anyway, there you go. For the naked GoPro, you want to do the iFlight 1504 3900 kV, highest kV that they've got. And if you eventually move that to a 3-inch frame, that motor will also work. Big FPV says, no, that's for a multi-protocol module when you put it in the bay. Nice. Cool. Works for me. That makes me not feel bad about not just updating the radio when I was trying to get Red Pine working. Tom's Lazy says, on what firmware is this QX7? Whatever the newest one is, 4.3, 2.3, I don't know, whatever the newest OpenTX is. Frank Nicholas says, RTFM for ghost wiring. Confirm it for yourself with the documentation. You know what? It's funny. I did when I found the pinout earlier today, I did see that they wanted me to put it on a TX pad, but it didn't hit me at the time how silly that is. It just didn't compute in my head until you guys started talking about it in chat. Odd says, this was super clear. See best FPV channel plus for tiny whoop shenanigans. So okay, I'll go 4S Tattoo 550 Gemfan 3-blade 3020. Try a bunch of props to try out. Yeah, always get tons of props and try them all out. Super fun, super cheap. And it's also a great training exercise. Trying different propellers will make you a better pilot. It'll make you more analytical about the way you can understand what's happening with the rig when your fingers do a certain thing. Mainly when you go full throttle. When you buy a bunch of different propellers and try them, at the very least, you will go full throttle and you will start to learn that the motors will spin up to a different pitch, but also the thing will go faster. Like that's a part of the learning curve of FPV. So yeah, trying different props is a great thing that everybody should be doing. Sometimes I forget that people don't do that. People will say like, oh, what's the one prop that I should get? I'm like, well, no, just get them all, and then you decide, because it's a very personal kind of thing. Yeah, I forget that people will just like buy, you know, a propeller and just run that propeller. Don't do that. If you're building a 3-inch rig, buy like 5 different 3-inch props and play around. It's super fun. But pick one as quickly as you can and stick with that one. But definitely play around at first. Expander says there is option for CRSF, but without module it won't work. Multi-protocol module is hardware. Right, of course. Good call, guys. GrizzFPV says TX can send and receive. Well, okay, there it is. Kind FPV's $30 super chat for the haircut fund. Freelojo says ghost signal goes to TX pad. This is ridiculous. This is insane. Family Guy versus What's Up Collective. Grizz says amazing experience. Andy Taylor says LOL. Tesh says they aren't just labels now. Yes, VTX table. Yeah, you got to do both. Cool, confirmed. Expander says, we got that. Slim says, does it? Oh, wow, I'm like somewhat caught up. RTFM, read the effing manual. No, I'm not going to read manuals. Expander says, never hit a road sign, but once hit a hollow empty silo. It's same kind of thing, right? Like there's certain things that we can hit with these rigs that immediately you know what you hit, but it's a sound that you have no reference point for, right? Like, how would any of us ever know what a street sign sounds like when we bash it with something really heavy at a crazy rate of speed? Redtail says, aren't there some FPV Cycle 1606 motors? There are, but they are very notchy, so same issues. Good call. I forgot about those. In my head, there are certain motor sizes where there are available smooth running motors. And unfortunately, 1606 is not one of those motor sizes at the moment. At one point in the chat, somebody said that they got a Toka 1606 that wasn't notchy, but they said they only got one. They said they got 3 of them that were notchy and 1 of them that was not notchy. And that really turned me off to those Toka 1606 motors because they were labeled exactly the same. So either that one was defective or they've changed the way that they're making that motor in the middle of the run, and they didn't change any of the markings or the name of it, and that's a really big problem. It's a really big problem to have a mix of motors that have been manufactured differently, specifically because you have to manufacture them very differently for them to be notchy versus not notchy. So that's a really, really, really big problem. So yeah, those Toka 1606s are kind of dead to me because you don't like, oh, I'm going to go order them and I don't know what I'm going to get. Am I going to get the notchy ones? Am I going to get the smooth ones? Am I going to get a mix of both? No, that motor becomes, the other motor that happened with is so never, ever buy this motor, the Flywoo Robo 1507. Same thing happens. Never buy that motor, ever. Yeah, they did. It's as if Ford V8 Mustangs in the middle of the run, they just started putting 6 cylinders in them and didn't say anything. So you go to the Ford dealership and buy a V8 Mustang and you drive home and it goes and sounds like a vacuum cleaner. What? No, you can't do that. Like, you got to take the GT badge off it, yo. Frank Nicholas says this is an older manual for Ghost, but I don't think the wiring has changed. Wish I'd had that earlier. Thanks, Frank. FPV says, in one of Backgrinder's videos, he hits his car. Yeah, that would be a sound that you would kind of instantly know. Farts. YouTube just did the thing. Yeah, I watched Joshua's setup video for Ghost. Frank tagged it. I watched that twice today. Expander says, I have 1606 Tokas on that 320 gram 3-inch Apex rig can confirm they're notchy AF. Yep, Yep. Expander says, I fly for fun, not for video, so not too bad. There you go. That's why I am very specific nowadays to say smooth motors are for if you want to try to run HD. Although, to be honest with you guys, smooth motors are also for if you want a really locked-in PID tune. You can argue that there's no reason. I kind of think that there's no reason for a locked-in PID tune if you're not doing HD, because why does it matter? Why do you care if the rig has bounce back? Who cares? I don't want it to. But, you know, the Nachi motors will give you more power. So, like, you know, there's a pretty good argument for, like, you know, I don't care about a good PID tune. I just want mad power. Done. You know? Nobody else is going to see my flying. What do I care if it's prop washing all over the place? Hell yeah. Done. Fly for fun, right? Why do we spend so much time obsessing over tunes? And as we've talked about previously, the worse your tune is, the better you're going to get as a pilot. Because the worse your tune is, the more evident prop wash and bounce back and all of these bad behaviors are. And that lets you see what you're doing on the sticks to cause them. And then you can learn to be a better pilot by not putting the rig into those situations. And then when you tune, when you're flying with HD video, it's ultra smooth and it's not. So what? Understand, right, that when a rig goes into prop wash, the ESC and the motors start working real hard. Real hard. They are going full tilt and then they are going full braking to stop that prop wash. So if you, as a pilot, put the rig into less prop wash, you'll get more battery life and your motors will stay cooler and your ESC will last longer and all these good things will happen, right? There are certain camera movements that force you to put the rig into prop wash. So in some cases it can't be avoided, but in a lot of cases it can. So why we be tuning so much, yo? Why we obsess over tuning so much? Athix, YouTube just did the thing. Athix says, I tried watermelon props today and didn't like them. And didn't like them. I like the 5143. I got used to more thrust with the 5143. Yeah, that's my big problem with the watermelons too. They're also too fragile. The 5143s are way more durable than the Ethics props. So that, to be honest, the durability is the big thing for me. Northern Tier FPV says, hey, are all these parts available now for a Ripsqueak build? What do you mean, Northern? Maybe a $5 deal coming up. I want to build a couple, get ready for the summer. Got an Insta360 Go 2. I want to haul around. I don't have the budget to be able to like buy all those parts and do a oh wait, Fiverr. You mean you want to have a build planning session with me? Yeah, I you typed Fiverr. I read like Etsy. I thought you meant like I would buy all the parts and then sell them on Etsy. Parts are more available now than they've been in the last like year, but it's still kind of annoying. There's still a lot of parts that aren't available, but now's a better time than in the last year to try to build a rig from scratch. There are enough parts available where we'd be, if you wanted to do a build planning session, we could find websites that have everything, so you'd be good. Athix says, read the manual, TLDR, how do I fix smart audio now, goggle? What? How do I fix the smart audio now, goggle? I don't know what that means, Athix. Freeloja says, now if I want to fly my glide hammer, full beans into a stop sign, see if it sticks to hammer after all. It'll break the bit. Don't do that, Freeloja. It'll break the base plate. If you guys are using the glide hammer 6mm arms, be careful. It'll those arms are so strong that the weak point is the base plate. So if you hit it really, I don't fly those 6mm arms anymore because I would rather replace a 5mm arm than replacing a base plate. Actually, I have the glide hammer arms on a cinematic rig that I don't crash because they eat the vibrations, and then I don't crash the rig, so it doesn't break the base plate. Metal Dirtskin says, turns out the Diamond VTX ship's locked. Have you unlocked it? Nope. Might not do race 8 if not. Oh my god. That's right. Sometimes they ship VTXs locked. And I'll probably have to unlock it by holding some stupid button that's more than likely buried in the middle of the thing that I can't get to, and I'll have to take the rig apart again. Oh, I love FPV so much. It makes us work so hard for no reason. Because everybody does everything different, because everybody thinks that they're right, or they're just lazy and they just don't want to establish any kind of a standard or follow anybody else's standard that maybe came before them. Oh, what an idea that would be. Oh, hey, someone made a VTX before me. Oh, look, they have an unlocking procedure. Oh, let me do that. Oh, look, they put the button near the end of the board where you can, I don't know, maybe get to it from the outside after you've built the rig. Oh, you're gonna build this into something? I was just making it this shape for fun. 20 by 20 just for funsies. Hey, wee! This hobby's a lot sometimes. Is it not? There's so Maggie and I have been together for 6 months, and so there's been just like an ongoing explanation of FPV. And one of the things that like has popped up over and over and over again as I've explained it is just how hard, how difficult it is. And also that the people that stay in it more than like 6 months are there's a specific person that can stay with FPV and actually do this and not just go, you know what? No. I care too much about my mental health to be into this. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm almost caught up. Freeloader dropping the link to my Patreon. Thank you, dudes. This is my full-time job, believe it or not. Go to CiottiFPV.com if you want more frustrating rants via live stream for 10 hours a week, every week. Espander says, if you don't race, why do you care if your car doesn't drive well? Because you're in the car, and if like the suspension, like if the valving in your shocks and struts are blown out, for example, and the car doesn't drive well, it's going to be uncomfortable. Whereas with the quads, who cares? You know, it just, a thing happens in our eyeballs. Who cares, right? Dragonwing says, on my 3-inch Arma 10 Gecko, I run Emax 1306's great motor. Very lightweight. I run a very tight PID tune, 150 gram setup with a battery strap, room for naked, GoPro plus 550 and B sub 250. I don't know what that means. Room plus 550? I don't know what that plus 550 means, but yeah, the Emax 1306s are a great motor. For the person that I was telling before about the RCX motors, the reason why I didn't suggest the Emax motors is the Emax motors are only 4,000 kV, and he was wanting to run a 2.5-inch prop. The RCX 1306s come in 4,000 and 6,000 kV. The RCX motors are actually a little bit better. They're a little bit better built. They crash better, and they're 9x9 mount, which is a really cool little bonus, because then you can run the excellent GEP RC 3-inch prop guards. But those Emax 1306 4000s are a great motor. They're actually going on back at the apartment, the next Ripsqueak build we're doing, which is going to be the Ghost. It's going to be the ultra clickbait Ripsqueak. It's going to have Ghost and HD0 Fat Shark. So yeah, I'm going to be using, I've had a set of those Emax 1306s for a while. Smoothie Groovin says, what am I losing or gaining if I ran 4-inch Apex 2005 motors on my 3-inch Apex rig at the same all-up rate of the 3-inch? 3-inch is running 1408. 4-inch Apex 2005 motors on a 3-inch. Same all-up weight. So the problem there will be there's not a 3-inch propeller that is aggressive enough to take advantage of that big of a motor. So you're going to have an underpropped setup. That's not true. Forget I just said that. The 5-blade Gem Fan Cinewhoop propellers and the 8-blade HQ Cinewhoop propellers are the only 3-inch propellers that are going to be properly matched to that big of a motor. So if you were going to fly that rig freestyle, it'd be a little weird because those motors are meant to be in a duct. Outside of a duct, they're going to struggle with efficiency. They're going to fly and they're going to be quiet. And why did the monitor just turn off? Might be an energy save setting. I think it was. Hey, we're back. So yeah, there you go. The most aggressive freestyle tri-blade prop in 3-inch is the Gemfan 3052. It's a little fragile. You could also try the T-Motor 3140. But on a 2005, I can guarantee you either one of those props are going to be not enough. You're going to... Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit wasteful. You're gonna be carrying around extra motor weight for no reason, and you might even have to back your PIDs off because the motor is gonna have so much torque and so much ability to change direction, and then the propeller is gonna be a little bit too lightweight. So the motor is gonna be able to like overactively just drive the shit out of that propeller, almost like the 5-inch rigs running the big old 2507 FPV cycle motors. It's right on this limit of like being over-motored or under-propped. Northern Tier FPV says, mainly looking for guidance on parts choice. Yeah, we can do it, man, for sure. I'd love to. YouTube just did the thing again. Ramdanko says, got about 5 batteries in the ripsqueak before I killed via learning. Equals back soon. Dals. Nice, Ram. You'll love those Dal props. They're good. Matt Dirksen says, looked all over for the unlocking procedure for that thing. Haven't found it yet. No. 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 No, no, no. Why did I get this diamond VTX DVR thing? Freelojo says 2 years of FPV under my belt now. I personally really like to build. I remember those days. Dragonwing says FPV is therapy. Espander says you have to love FPV to do it and deal with all that comes with it. Otherwise, it's not just going to happen. Yeah. Espander says FPV is life. It's not just a hobby. Dragonwing says, don't forget HQ Prop 3x4x3 and Gemfan 3052. They are awesome aggressive props for 3-inch low KV. The HQ Prop V1Ss, which are the 3x3x3, the 3x4x3, the 3x5x3 even, none of those are all that well balanced. So be careful with those props. I always leave those props out because they're not all that well balanced. On a stock PID tune, they'll probably work, but if you try to get more aggressive with your PID tune, or if you run a Gemfan prop and push the tune and then put the HQ prop on, you're gonna have a bad day. June Loco says, why don't you set up the new Mac in Studio 2? I was thinking about that, June Loco, but I just need to replace that tower. It's yeah, and like it's that's where like my proper mouse is, and like yeah, I want to do a bunch of editing on the Mac Mini, and I'm much more comfortable editing at the apartment. And the other reason is that the Mac Mini will work with the little VRX receiver thing. So when the Mac Mini is up at the apartment, I'll be able to fly Tiny Whoops live on stream at the apartment and here. Not a big deal, but whatever. Smoothie Griffin says, I see what you mean. Thanks for all your input. You give us much appreciated. My pleasure. Espander says, you have to be a special kind of nerd to hang on here. It's so true. Bannister Post says, you're so right about those FPV cycle motors on 5-inch, better on the 5.25-inch or 5.5-inch. Yeah, I run that same size motor on my high-speed rig. It's the Brother Hobby 2507. And I move that rig between 5152s, 5.1-inch, 52 pitch, big, gnarly Gemfan prop, and the Gemfan 5552, the same prop but 5.5 inches. And on the 5552, it is a little bit overpropped. But on the 5152, which is a huge propeller, those motors feel great. So like, that's one of the big reasons why I haven't run a set of Bob's version of that motor size on like a Gemfan 5143, for example. Like, I know exactly what that's going to be like, and that's exciting. And, you know, Bob is a guy that mechanically tunes these quads. He does not touch PID tuning. And so on a stock PID tune, I'm sure that motor is amazing, because it's just able to grunt the hell out of that, you know, lightweight 5143 or, you know, one of the Ethics props or whatever. But I prefer to push the PIDs a little bit and run a lighter weight motor. Also a motor that's a little bit more durable. You know, running a bigger stator volume motor, your motor weight is being used in the stator. You can emulate that by cranking the PID tune up. And that'll give you a little bit of, and that'll allow you to run a lighter weight motor, and you can use that weight savings for durability or just for the rig to fly better. And I kind of split the difference. The T-Motor F40 Pro 4s are, they're not the most fragile motor, but they are one of the lightest motors. So they're a nice mix of durability and lightweight. So yeah, again, these are the sliding scales of FPV. When you really get in the weeds and you really like dive in and start to learn the meta within FPV, one of the metas is tuning. The perfect mix for your flight style and your wants and needs of propeller, motor, battery, voltage, all up weight, and everything else. Lots of frames. Let's talk about them now that I'm caught up on the chat. Only took an hour and 40 minutes. Good Lord. 20 minutes from now, Bot Grinder goes on and I go off the air. So get ready to hang out with DJ. You're going to love it. Ethics FPV says, when you mean high speed, how fast is that? I built it to go 120 to keep up with dirt track cars. And I just found the most pitchy prop, which is the 5152. And then I just took a guess on the motors. I wish I'd gone a little bit bigger on the motors, but the rig already hauls ass. And yeah, going any bigger, you really get into this world where like the rig is so heavy that it doesn't perform like a 5-inch freestyle rig. Where I ended up with this high-speed cinematic rig is kind of perfect, where it almost kind of flies like a 5-inch freestyle rig. You don't have to completely relearn everything, which is nice. Dunkel time. Oh God, Dunkel's spilling everywhere. Why? What did I do? Did I put you down on the desk too hard? I don't understand. What happened? Dunkel, could you sense that I was that I'm having a stressful, bad day, and you decided to pile on? You fucker. Now there's just beer everywhere. This table is gonna be all sticky. Avix says I need to chase at 50 to 60-ish. Just a regular old 5-inch freestyle rig will do that, man. And it'll be locked in and dialed and beautiful and perfect in the meantime. Those are the speeds that drift cars do on small to medium-sized drift layouts, and my God, regular old 5-inch freestyle rigs are just perfect. Ugh. Absolutely perfect. Nice and lightweight, totally dialed in, huge part selection, no like, you know, you're not off in this world of trying to like recreate power to weight ratio and all this nonsense. 3-inch freestyle frames. Max Whalen says, I'm running 6S on 1870 kV FPV cycle motors with Ethics 5130 props. Do you think I'm under propping? No. Those FPV cycle motors, like we were just talking about, they were specifically made to be like dead ass perfect on a stock tune. So there's a window. Like every motor size has a little bit of a window of like the weight and pitch and size of propellers that it's going to work really well on. You're on one extreme side of that window, but you're still in the window. You're still in that window for sure. Thanks for subbing, Justin Mack. So yeah, you're fine. But I'll bet you if you try to get aggressive with your PID tune, it'll be overtuned and it'll start to get angry. So like the stock Betaflight PID tune is probably damn near perfect. Maybe you can only push it like 5 or 10 points. So here's a bunch of 3-inch freestyle frames. I just thought this would be a fun thing to kind of look at because I have a whole bunch of these frames at a whole bunch of different weights all at once. And I just happened to put a bunch of them together. So we're going to start at, we'll start at heavy and then we'll go down. I don't have enough time to check Facebook ethics. Sorry, man. I got to get this knocked out in 20 minutes and it's the way I rant. It's going to take the whole time. This is a D-Quad mini LRX. Is that it? D-Quad mini. Is it LRX? I think it's LRX. What? Mini LRX, that's it. So this is D-Quad's 3-inch freestyle frame. It is really well made. There's some things I like about it. My main complaint, man, it is hard to show you guys things here with this small light source. My main complaint is that the armholes are in the 20 millimeter and the 30 millimeter mounting locations. So with a typical build where you run long screws through one of those up through the stack, if you want to replace an arm, you have to pull a stack screw all the way out, which is a pain in the ass because a lot of times you'll have spacers in between there and then those spacers will fall out, or God forbid they're threaded spacers. It's just annoying. It's the heaviest of these frames, but that's because it's got double 20 by 20 mounting. It is a smaller double 20 by 20 frame. This is one of the smallest frames that I know of that you can put two 20 by 20 stacks in. And because of that, it's the heaviest of these frames that we're going to look at. It's all, like I said, it's also the only frame that we're going to look at here that has that double 20 by 20 mounting, and it's 60 grams. So yeah, I think it's one of the lightest, if not the lightest, frame that can do potentially a Vista. I don't know if a Vista will actually fit back here because I don't know how big they are, but I mean, I don't know. It's got some space in the back for 20 by 20. It's drilled 20/20, and then the standoffs are, I don't know, they're kind of close, but the way I built it here, which is going to be nigh on impossible to show you. Well, let's do this. I'll be able to show you guys this. Nope, that's the wrong way. So I use these. So I put the I use the 20 by 20 mounts, and I put slightly longer screws through them, and then I put these M3 5 millimeter spacers on. See them in there? So I have the screw coming up through the bottom, and then it goes halfway. It goes, like 2 millimeters, 2.5 millimeters through this M5 spacer. And then so I can sink screws down from the top of the stack that will hopefully go 2 millimeters into that spacer. You know what I mean? So that when I break an arm, I can just pull this screw out of the bottom, this spacer will stay in place, and then I can send the screw back in. That's not ideal, but that's my solution to the problem of, yeah. It's got vertical camera plates. They designed me a set of vertical camera plates specifically for the RunCam hybrid. Usually this rig comes with 20 millimeter standoffs and 20 millimeter vertical camera plates. But yeah, they designed this one specifically for me. They designed these camera plates specifically for me because they're looking for they're looking to sponsor a micro freestyle pilot. And this frame has always been on my radar, but I always knew that it was locked into 20 millimeters, so I never even, gave it a second thought. So yeah, 60-gram frame. I wish it had a little bit more motor protection, if I'm completely honest, but I bet you if you put TPU arm protectors, it would give you just enough motor protection. I don't have a whole lot else to say about it. I like it. There's a lot of things that I like about it. It's got big long slots here on the top plate for battery straps. So yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to building this and seeing how it is with the RunCam hybrid up front, and I'll be able to put the RunCam hybrid board in the back here. So yeah, this could be a cool little build, and this will also kind of, I have a feeling that all up, this is going to be knocking on the door of 300 grams, maybe more than 300 grams. So it'll be a good little reminder as to what a really heavy 3-inch rig feels like. So yeah, we'll see. This is going to get built. I also think that these arms might be a little bit too strong, and that it might just blow up motor after motor after motor after motor. But this is heavy enough where you could justify putting an X-Nova 1804 on it, which is probably what I'll do. And that's got a 3 millimeter motor shaft, so at that point, maybe these arms are the perfect strength. But for a 2 millimeter motor shaft motor, which is most of the micro motors, I bet you these arms are a little too strong. Food for thought. That's the fatty frame of the bunch. The next fattest is, I think it's this. I think it's the CiottiFPV frame with all the heavy stuff on it. So this is 43 grams. What's this ripsqueak? Yeah, this ripsqueak is a lot lighter. This is a lot lighter. Okay, so the CiottiFPV frame, which doesn't really exist, it's vaporware for the time being. 43 grams. I think this is kind of the limit. I wish it was a little bit lighter, but I think this is kind of okay. 3-inch arms, that we will do 3.5-inch arms, 4-inch arms, 2.5-inch arms, maybe even 2-inch arms. Of these frames, this absolutely has the best motor protection, right? We've got the devil horns. The devil horns are a part of the reason that this frame is heavier than these other frames. The arms are the thickest carbon on the entire frame. So any extra material, like the devil arms, that you add on the thickest carbon adds a lot of weight. Other than that, this is a pretty straightforward school bus style frame. 20 by 20 only, so that the canopy center area is as short as possible. I don't know anything about this yet. I haven't even like test fitted a camera yet. But this is the build with this frame where it's got, god damn it, where's the reflection? There it is. Where it's got a full base plate. The extra weight of this one over the lighter weight build of this. See the base plate? This has that silly little blue thing for the base plate. This has an actual sandwich plate down here. So this will be real tough. This base plate will never break. This sandwich plate will never break. This will just break arms, and I like that. I suspect that you could get this built on 3-inch with a RunCam hybrid. at like 280, maybe 290, maybe 270 grams. We got to see. But I'm excited about this. I'm gonna move one of the rip squeaks into this. Well, we'll just hit the lightweight version of that frame now. We won't go from heaviest to lightest. We'll just go to this one. I got 11 more minutes. Got to keep going. Now we're at 38 grams. All right. So we've ditched that sandwich plate. Ryan Harrell thinks that this little setup will work. And I understand now. Now that I see the frame, he might be right. So this might be the final. This might be what comes with the final version of this frame. The other reason this frame's a little bit lighter is there are 3-hole arms. There's a possibility that this could cause durability problems. The folks that have made frames with 3-bolt arms have had problems, more problems than a 4-bolt arm. So this is a little experimental here, but we're saving a significant amount of weight there. Now we're into rip squeaks. Well, no, let's hit the CB3. This is an old Rotorius frame. This is almost identical to the frame that I was flying at Quad Camp way long ago. 35.2 grams for this frame. This is the removable arm version of the frame. I begged Rotorius, both owners of Rotorius, to put this frame out, and it never happened. And it's bugged me ever since. This frame was originally just a shrunken down version of the OG Alien. RC Ritter, I could talk, that's like a 15-minute rant, but basically not having the motor bolted down in all 4 locations allows the the stator base to move all over the place and in a really hard hit. Not going to talk anymore about the CB3 because you can't get it. And I don't fly it anymore because I don't want to fly something that you guys can't buy, because every time I fly something, you guys say, oh my God, what are you flying? I need it. Not every time, but you know what I mean. Not whooping tonight, June Loco. 9 more minutes of stream and then it's bot grinder time. BQE rip squeaks. This is the V2, which is 1 gram heavier than the V1. This is on the big boy 3-inch thick arms, the 3.2 millimeter thick arms. 38 grams for this rig. Love this frame. Good amount of space. Single 20 by 20 mounting stack. Plenty of room for the RunCam hybrid, although the V1 works better with the RunCam hybrid. The V2 is better for carrying like an Insta360 Go or a Naked GoPro or something like that. Great frame though. Really like this frame. Lightweight version of it with 2.5 inch arms. I actually can't believe how much lighter this is. It is 32 grams. It drops 6 grams by going to the arms aren't much shorter, but they're thinner. They're 2.5 millimeters versus 3.2. So yeah, this is gonna be a fun little. I'm gonna crank the KV up on these motors and see what like a 2-inch 5-blade prop is like on a 2.5-inch prop guard with this. That project ain't gonna happen for a while. That's been on the back burner for a long time. And then this is Cool Coyote's frame, which is just like a shrunken down glide basically, and it's the lightest of the bunch, and it's coming in at 29.6, call it 30 grams. These arms, very, very thin. Very, very, very thin arms. These arms will definitely break before the base plate and before the motor, which is a good thing. 3 bolts on the arms. Maybe the weak point is here. Maybe this arm breaks before it ruins the motor base because of the fact that it only has 3 screws. I really like this frame if you're really trying to keep this weight down. Cool Coyote, he's on the Discord channel. He'll sell you one of these. This is a prototype, and the arms don't lock up properly, so I never got around to building it. But I mean, I've had a really hard time getting anything built, so this kind of this frame came to me at a time that I was like super backed up, and I've been super backed up ever since. So it was just kind of poor timing, but I'm sure he's fixed the arm lockup issues by now. But yeah, Cool Coyote over on the Discord channel is who's making that frame. So there you go. There's 7 different 3-inch Freestyle frames, and like sort of my thoughts on them. There are things that I like about each of them. There are things that I've learned from them. The Ripsqueak micro frame, can't go wrong with it. Great frame, great company. Bunch of different arm options, 3.5-inch arms, 3-inch arms, 4-inch arms, 2.5-inch arms. It's great. Absolutely can't go wrong with it. The D-Quad frame is heavier. If you need double 20x20 stack, that's the only option in this little roundup. Because I don't think mounting a Vista on top of a flight controller and ESC makes any sense. The rig's going to be this tall. So yeah, 5 minutes. Let me see how caught up I can get on chat. Max Willen says I'm running 6. No, we got that. Spander says I've been flying GemFan 5143 3s a while. Like them, but I keep hearing good things about Ethics PB&J props. Should I try them, or better stick with the GemFans? The Ethics peanut butter and jelly props are more fragile, and they make less thrust. I don't really. They're also not really more efficient. They're more efficient than the old Ethics props, but the old Ethics props were quite a bit less efficient than the 5143 3s. The PB&J props have that old school HQ blade design that just doesn't really do. My guess is that it doesn't do a great job of managing the turbulence at the end of the propeller blade. The GemFan propeller just has a blade shape that appears to be much more sophisticated, is a word I guess I could use. And with aerodynamics, a lot of times, the more sophisticated a piece of aero looks, the more time and effort has been spent on making it aerodynamic. And a big part of making things aerodynamic is making them deal with trouble spots. And the end of a blade has a trouble spot where high pressure meets low pressure. So yeah, the PB&J props are definitely better than the original Ethics props, the S3, S4, S5. Specifically the S3 and the S4, but they're still not up to par with the GemFan 5143s, in my opinion. And many others. I feel like most people are flying 5143 3s at this point, or the 5146s, like the Min Chan Kim props. Ramdongo says, The Expanse, don't take no poop. I'm in, I think I'm deep into the 2nd season now. Espander says, will it fit a Vista? Not totally sure, but probably. Look for people that have built it, like on Rotor Builds, see if anybody of them have a Vista in there. Dragon Wing, hopefully I give you all the weight that you needed. Max Willen says, new to tuning. If I have a build, where should I not push the PIDs very far? What? If I have a build, where should not push the PIDs very far? I can still push the filters pretty far, right? I think what you're asking, I think the answer to the question is, if you keep the PIDs, if you don't go nuts with the PIDs and you leave them towards stock, you can go nuts with the filters, typically. Depends on everything in the build, depends on how you built it, depends on a million different things. But I think that's the answer to your question. I might be misunderstanding your question, though. Freeloader says, RVS Small Yeet 3 frame has double 20x20 stack, can fit Vista, 25 included, TPU frame, 44 grams, built mine sub 250. Jesus. Wow, okay, so there you go. RVS Small Yeet 3 is considerably lighter than this, and it can still fit a Vista. Very cool. Philo just says, that's why I want to test the CiottiFPV frame. Metal Durson says, do stack screws go through the arms on your frame? Looks like they might not. They do not. That was a big part of the design principle, is for the stack screws to not go anywhere through the arms. That is why the arms have such a weird little shape to them. See all this weird, see all this weirdness in here? Hold on. It's hard to see it. In here? There it is. In there, that like weird like angle. That's to isolate the stack screws. The D-quad frame does not do that. The Ripsqueak does. The Cool Coyote frame does not do that. Whether or not the CB3 did not do that. It was one of the few things that I didn't like about the CB3. There is certainly an argument that that does not matter. I used to think that it definitely does matter. I've kind of come into the middle where I just don't know. I just don't. There are too many other factors at play. I've yet to see a definitive, like, somebody would kind of have to make the exact same frame in each design. But even if they did that, there's still a margin of error, because changing the arm design to not touch those stack screws, and also not having the clamping force of having a screw in that exact location where the stack is could change things. So there's too many variables to be totally sure whether or not having stack screws that are or aren't isolated from the arms actually makes a difference. My hunch is that it does. But there's just no way to tell. Richard says single stack mounting in your frame, absolutely, because the frame is pretty specifically built for analog run cam hybrid. That is kind of the reason that the frame was made. You'll absolutely be able to build it with different stuff, obviously, but yeah, the intended build for that frame is the best freestyle 3-inch setup that I've been able to come up with in the last, realistically, 4 years. I've been really trying to figure out how to make a 3-inch, just gnarly 3-inch freestyle rig that can get as close as possible to the 5-inch freestyle experience. Noah says, can you get Cool Coyote to hit me up? I like that frame. Noah, just go to CiottiFPV.com, scroll down, link to my Discord, jump in there, and you can message him on there. Michael Jones with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, this is so different from my balsa fixed wing world. Yeah. Love the learning curve, and thanks. Beers on me. Thank you very much, Michael Jones. Yeah, man, it's the amount of development that has gone on. Oh, I got to wrap this up. You guys got to go watch Bot. The amount of development that's happened in such a short period of time in FPV is, I've never seen anything like it. Spander says, sticking with the Gem fans then, and just like that, we'd be caught up. Go watch some Bot Grinder, friends. I love you all. Here comes some more flying. Hopefully it's more than like 3 seconds. I love how in the beginning of the stream, the 2 videos that I happen to pick are me just crashing immediately. I'm sitting here like all, annoyed at the beginning of the stream. I'm like, oh, of course I picked that one. Maybe I won't crash immediately on this one, but if I do, whatever. Let me get some jams for you guys. A little bit of a different stream tonight. Hopefully you guys liked it. Let me know if you didn't. Or not. All right, people. I'll see you guys on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Don't do anything I wouldn't do.